And we are now live. This is John, the action figure grader. And this is going to be kind of a new thing for me. I wanted to do something to say thank you to my Patreon supporters. I've got 61 Patreon supporters that help out with channel expenses and just are fans of the channel. And they so graciously, became Patreon supporters. And so I wanted to put together a Patreon exclusive live stream. And this is kind of the first try at it, and we'll see how it goes. It's kind of a free for all. We've got 7 people watching right now. Welcome to whoever's watching, and I'm hoping that I can get you guys to chime in with comments and questions. This is basically for you guys, and just my very, very small way of saying thanks to you guys. Gary Wallace is the first to comment. Let's get him up there. Gary, there you are. Oh man, I got a lot of comments that just popped up last second here. So Gary, welcome. I had the pleasure of meeting Gary in person at a toy convention here in town earlier this year. So that was pretty awesome. All right, let's see what else we got here. We got Rocket City Sith. I know John isn't late because of him doing his hair. There you go. That's great. I like that. I got some. I'm definitely struggling in the hair department. I'm follically challenged, I think is probably the safest way to say it. But I actually choose to keep my hair short on purpose. I get so hot. I'm constantly sweating. So I keep my hair really short. Jester's Dead. I want to say welcome to Jester's Dead. He's a new Patreon supporter. I really appreciate all of you guys who are now joining. Brett Onfet, a fellow YouTuber. He is here. Welcome, Brett. I hope you're doing well. Congratulations. Brett just got back from AFA, an AFA 9.0 or 90 Razor Crest pack-in Jawa. So that was pretty awesome to see on Instagram. Congratulations on that. Well done. Danny Allen, been waiting all week. Man, I am really sorry. If you've been waiting for a live stream with me all week, man, you need to reevaluate because no, I'm kidding, man. I appreciate that. It's nice of you to say. David Grinstaff, I've been on here 2 hours already, just in case. Early for you. Well, see, David's making a reference to the fact that I can't do time differences between the UK and the US. That's what a mistake I made in the last one. I said 6 hours later for the UK, but it's actually 5 hours. But see, I'm on Central Time, and Central Time is actually 6 hours past. But so I totally screwed that one up. So what are you going to do? Anyway, I want to say thanks to everyone who's joining here. I'm gonna have a hard time. I'm just gonna warn you right now. I'm gonna have a hard time keeping up with comments, but I want you guys to fire away with questions, topics. What are you guys picking up these days? I've been pretty low key here after going on a little bit of a bender. As you guys know already, if you watched the live stream, I picked up a proof card for one of my favorite characters and a character I've got a focus run going for, and that's the Cloud Car Pilot. I picked up that revenge card on Hakes, and that was pretty awesome. John, welcome, and thank you for your service to our country. He's a new Patreon, but I've known him for a little bit on Facebook. Brett Onfet, he said, thanks, man. Yeah, it was a 90. So me personally, when you're looking at AFA on the modern scale, 1.0 to 9.0, or 10.0, I should say, I feel like it's easier to get a 9.0 on the modern scale than it is to get a 3-tier graded 90, just based on my limited experience. I mean, this Ahsoka that I got back from AFA, a month or 2 ago, I don't know when. This is the Ahsoka Mandalore. I really love this figure, by the way. It's just awesome. I've got one at Collector Archive Services to see if it does any better, but this one got an 85, and I'm not kidding you. I have looked this thing up and down, left, right. There are 2 little nicks on the card back. I found nothing on the blister, and it still got an 85, 85, 90 for an overall 85. So what does that tell you? I can't predict at all what AFA is going to come back with. And I've heard from a lot of collectors that have said the same thing. Jester's Dead, UK. I'm overwhelmed currently by the number of pre-orders I'm getting in lately. It's insane. Gary, I cannot tell you how true that is, because my Big Bad Toy Store pile of loot, I have right now in my pile of loot at Big Bad Toy Store 19 collector grade TVC, and I'm dreading the day when I'm going to have to actually take possession of those and do something with them. Usually I send off small batches to get graded, but I'm fearing even getting it in my house because I know me and I know that I'm going to want to get some of those bad boys graded. So, Jester's Dead, he says, as talked about, I bought my first pricey-ish figure from the vintage collection, VC 61, nowhere near your kind of prices. Love the prototype Bob. I love it too. It's pretty awesome. I'm hoping that Keith Guppy can make an appearance because he's been a long time channel Patreon as well. Let's see. Rocket City Siths had just picked up a Luke Bespin, Ugnaught, Luke Hall, Smiling Lando. I have the Smiling Lando PvP and the No COO Palatoy, but I don't have a Hong Kong Smiling Lando. That's what I would like to get. AT Commander Hoth Rub, man, you've been a busy man. All Kenner at a local toy store. Well done there. That is some good stuff. Good stuff there. Oh, there's Keith. Hi, guys. Keith Guppy's got one of the most incredible collections you've ever seen. I think I've shown a few photos of his collection when he was reassembling, reconfiguring things in his collection room, and it's a pretty mind-blowing. Because this is a Patreon live stream, I wanted to bring out this one again, and this was a gift from Keith Guppy to me. What an awesome item this is. This is the Hasbro Canada version of the Shock Trooper, and you can see on the back there it's got the multi-language kind of little area. I can always tell it's Canadian because it's got this kind of indent here with all this multi-language stuff. And obviously there's the multi-language French language there on the back, but VC 110, the Hasbro Canada version. This was a wonderful gift from Keith Guppy, and it graded 90 plus with CAS. And that's no mean feat these days. I just feel like in general with those TVC 1.0 to get a 90 or anything like that, that is just very difficult to do. And so thank you again to Keith for that beautiful, beautiful item. What a beauty. Love the Shock Trooper. I do too, Gary. My only other recent pickup here lately, and I'd love to hear more from you guys. I need some questions. If we're going to keep this thing rolling here, I'd love to hear some questions. It could be about anything. It can be about the economy. It can be about vintage Kenner. It can be about TVC, comic books, whatever y'all want to talk about. It's fair game, and we'll kind of go from there. But the only other recent pickup I had was this one. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know what this is. But this is the 1-in-50 ratio of Star Wars The Mandalorian #1. And if you all remember from my video, I made a video on Mandalorian #1 in a CGC 9.8 grade. And I said, just wait. You want to wait until you get a good deal. And so of course, I like a week later, I bought one. But in all fairness, I did get a good deal on it. So these were pre-selling in a CGC 9.8 pre-sale. These 1-in-50 ratio variants. And when I say 1-in-50 ratio variants for you non-comic collectors, that means for every 50 of the cover A's, only one of these was printed. So I figured if you're going to get one, I might as well get one of the more exclusive covers. It's certainly not as exclusive as, say, the STCC version. But anyway, these were pre-selling on a lot of those websites like Beach Bum Comics and places like that. They were pre-selling for $200 plus shipping. And some guy listed this one on eBay for $115 plus shipping. So I was like, well, I'm not really sure if I'm going to get it any cheaper than that in the short term. The glare in my room is bad. I don't know if I was going to get it any cheaper than that in the short term. So I picked one up for me, and then another YouTuber asked me to pick him one up. And you probably know him. His name rhymes with Mosk's Flounty. So I do got one over there in a big box of care package, so to speak, for him, with some other items he needed from the US. So I'm going to ship those off to him next week. All right, Danny Allen, he's got the first question. What do you guess the timeline left in TVC could be? With all the recent drops, it seems like a lot of repacks and kit bashes missed the 1.0 feels. That's a good question. And, pre-Hasbro coming out announcing that they're not going to be getting rid of the blister, the blister-free packaging, the plastic-free packaging. When they came out with that announcement, that kind of changed my view on what Hasbro's kind of plan is for the line. I don't know if we're ever going to see really the line die off in the short term, just because it seems like Hasbro is throwing a lot of support behind it. All of anything related to the vintage collection that is a good HasLab type of project, I think would get funded pretty easily. We just saw the Hiss Tank for the G.I. Joe Classified series. That one just blew past numbers. Obviously, we saw the saber, the Reva's lightsaber, fail. And I think that Hasbro has a pretty good idea now of what works. If you give the people what they want, they'll buy it. And all the Mandalorian figures that we just had in recent waves, I've got a bunch of those at Big Bad Toy Store in my pile of loot. So I don't know what the timeline is to answer your question. I think that it seems to be alive and well right now, and just based on some of the stuff that Boss Bounty talks about, Only One Kenobi, John Miko, those guys seem to think that the line is alive and well, and it certainly seems to be having the support of Hasbro. So I'm hopeful that that's the case, because the only negative I've got about the vintage collection line is that it's almost we talked about this in other live streams or in other videos about how the collecting community likes to complain no matter what. And I'm one of those guys where I was complaining about the lack of kind of new stuff. And then once Hasbro just completely dropped everything on us, there's so many figures that I can't even keep up anymore. So for me, I think that I've had to pick and choose which figures I like. And I've basically picked up any clone trooper or any Mandalorian type of figure. That new Luke Jedi, I picked him up. I picked up the Cal Kestis. I like the Gaming Grapes a lot. I know that the new Lando's not a big favorite, but I loved it. I had to have that new Lando. So that's something there. Brett says Keith has the greatest modern Star Wars graded item ever. That Revenge. So what he's alluding to there is that Death Star playset, the SDCC exclusive. Keith actually has that graded opened by UKG. It's one of the biggest things I've ever seen in my life. And I know that if I personally decided to try to do that, the divorce papers would still have wet ink on them before I even got a chance to look at them, because my wife would say, no, that's not coming in. That and the sail barge are never going to be in my collection, or even the Razor Crest. I just don't have any room for it. Oh man. So Rocket City says, I'm scared to death to even think about car back variants for TVC. So many variants, so little money. And, this is a good point. Everyone collects differently. Me personally, as I just mentioned, I don't really collect everything. I just don't have the space or even the want for the entire vintage collection run. So, I pick and choose my favorite characters, or, some of the pack-in exclusives like you see behind me, the Antoc Merrick, or I've got a very small run going of the Canadian TVC. I just really like the Canadian TVC. It's kind of a nice little side focus for me. I tend to have a lot of little side focuses, whether it's vintage Kenner or the vintage collection. And I think I've got now, let's see, I've got Malgus, I've got the Shock Trooper, I've got Ahsoka, and I've got a Boba Fett that was a kind gift from James, who is a channel viewer, and I've got maybe one or two others. Oh, the Hoth Echo Base Rebel Commander, I've got that one with that crazy multi-language name pill. This guy it's got like Puerto Rican or something on there. It's just crazy how big that thing is. That was a quick turnaround for the 1 in 50 Mando. He's talking about the grading turnaround time. Well, and this is something I'm going to cover in a video probably next week, but you guys are getting a first kind of discussion, because there are some big news that has come out of CGC over the last week or so. Number one, related to what David just mentioned, is that CGC just announced that their turnaround times have been cut to 35 days for modern submissions. 35 days. Now you got to remember that I had several submissions over the last 18 months or so, and the average was about 5 months. My last batch took 2.5 months. Now they're down to 35 days. So think about how quickly, after CGC was purchased by Blackstone, by Blackstone, the Wall Street-backed conglomerate that has billions and billions of dollars. How quickly after that acquisition happened, did they streamline operations, and now they're down to 35 days turnaround for grading for modern comics. That's the first bit of news. The second bit of news is much more exciting. And I think that you guys are Patreon supporters, so you guys should know about it. If you haven't seen it yet, you can go to CGC's website. But CGC is looking to hire experts for Funko Pops grading. Now, why does that matter? It doesn't matter to me at all. But they did kind of mention broadly in the news release, when they're talking about hiring, that they're looking to get integrated toys now. And this is what I expected to happen, and I predicted would happen when CGC was acquired by Blackstone Group, is that CGC is going to start expanding their offerings. They've already had comics, obviously, and posters and things like that. but they've since moved into trading cards and into video games. Video games was the next big move. They also moved into graded sealed VHS. And you'll have to excuse me as we go through here. My throat gets very dry because I'm talking nonstop. So I've got a big jug of coffee to kind of keep me caffeinated and lively for you. But so not only have they gone into VHS and video games, now they're moving into toys, and they're starting with Funko Pops, which I think that's a kind of a safe, conservative first toy line. If you call it a toy, it's really kind of a collectible. It's not really a toy. I consider it like a bobblehead, really, but no offense to those of you that collect Funkos. I just don't collect them. But if you go to cgccomics.com, you'll see on the article, it's written much more broadly to say that they're going into the toys segment now. And so there's going to be I would guess within the next year, we're going to have another major player within, at least for packaged. I'm not saying for loose graded. I doubt that they'll ever get into loose graded stuff, just because it's just so time consuming. It's hard to get those cases to fit those loose figures exactly perfectly, because these figures were kind of, they were made in these molds, and they're not all exactly the same. But the packaging is, for the most part, largely the same. Once you start talking about vintage Kenner or TVC or whatever, you might have certain thickness to the blisters, or certain slight differences to the shapes of the card backs, depending on Palatoy, vintage Kenner, and so forth. But in general, they're very easy to kind of streamline and create kind of an assembly line process. So I fully expect CGC to not only just grade Funko Pops, they're not starting with Funko Pops and ending with Funko Pops about grading. Once they kind of build up the expertise, I fully expect that they're going to be another pretty major player when it comes to packaged toys, whether vintage or modern or what. But it just makes so much sense for them as they kind of build out their operations. They have so much money now. They have so much money with BlackRock backing them. Billions and billions of dollars. BlackRock, their acquisition of CGC, which was, I think, over $500 million, that's a rounding error for them, for their cash balance. They have so much cash, they don't even know what to do with it. So for them to drop another billion or whatever the number is into toy grading, and to opening up a segment for toy grading, it's a no-brainer. And they're going to capture, I would guess, a pretty significant portion of the market, just like they did with graded Pokemon cards and things like that. They took away share from PSA very quickly, and I expect that to kind of continue. Jesters, and I apologize, I'm getting way behind because I'm talking so much about each topic, but I wanted to share that news on CGC because that's big news. That's big news, and I'm going to cover that in a separate video later this week when I get the time. Time is a finite quantity for me, and I don't have enough of it. But Jester's Dead says, have you ever had your collection appraised? Value? So many graded first shots. Where I have a spreadsheet, I will say, that keeps track of prices. I don't update it like monthly or anything like that, but I've got if you don't have it insured, if you don't have your collection insured, and you have a significant collection like a Keith Guppy type collection where it's pretty significant, you probably want to have an insurance rider on it. And my insurance is through Erie, and they have like a contents policy that's kind of an add-on. And I just keep a spreadsheet for the values and try to update it once a year or so. And luckily, it's like $130 a year at most, and that covers well above the value of my collection. I can tell you that. In terms of my overall value, that's not really a number I want to kind of talk about publicly. Let's keep in mind that this video is going to be on replay for the channel. So I don't want to talk about the value of my collection. I'll say this, that while I certainly love my collection and consider it really cool and all that, and it kind of gives me something fun to talk about with you guys, and I've got to meet so many great people. That's the big thing. I don't look at it nearly as much as an investment as maybe I cover on my channel. Let's be real here for a second. My channel, all I really do, in my opinion, is aggregate eBay sales data. Those are the videos that get the most watches from folks. So I try to aggregate sales data and then share my thoughts on price, and that's really all it is. And in between, every so often, I do stuff like this, or I do get Chris W. on from Rogue 5 Toys and talk about the market. But as much as I talk about prices and kind of the collectibles market as a whole, and all the different segments and the graded, how graded collectibles are becoming like a new investment asset class type thing, I personally don't look at my collection nearly that way as maybe probably people think. So, but to each their own. I mean, some people don't look at it at all. They don't look at it at all. I think it's kind of a fun thing that, as I've talked about, whenever I do die, it's going to be really easy for my wife to sell all this stuff because it's graded and authenticated and scored and all that kind of stuff. And for me, that's the fun part is setting stuff off, getting it back and seeing what kind of grades I get and spending most of my time either complaining or praising the fact that I got the grade I got. That's just the fun part of it. And, you know, when it comes to comics, it's kind of the same thing. I got into comics because I love finding off the wall key issue comics that maybe people don't know about or care about or even think about. And next thing you know, I'm showing you one that's one of 23. One of 23 CGC 9.8s on the entire census. I love that kind of stuff, and I love finding those kind of rarities. So that's a fun thing. Rocket City says TVC seems to be going strong in the market. Is the late response for a recession surprising you? This is a great topic and a great question. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I wasn't expecting, quite honestly, I wasn't expecting a huge drop in TVC nearly as much as I was the vintage Kenner stuff. And I will say that the high end of the vintage Kenner stuff, you know, I think the last Hakes auction, in my opinion, supports the idea that I was right, right? You know, a lot of that really high end stuff, the big, deep pocketed whales, they're not buying those rocket firing FETs or those other prototypes or box flats or, you know, whatever, at nearly the same prices that they were back in March. I mean, to see a 60%, whatever the number was, 60% drop, it may not have been that much, but a significant drop in that rocket firing FET. It went from 200 plus to whatever it was, 135. And to see those kinds of drops a month after I made the video calling for the peak in collectibles prices, that was pretty interesting. That was interesting. Now, do I think TVC is seeing a drop? I think certain figures are not, as we just saw in the video yesterday. I mean, you look at Emperor's Wrath VC-115 Vader, that one's holding stronger than ever. The ATRT driver comes to mind. The Rogue One Imperial Tank Commander. I've been searching for one now. All of this talk of the Imperial Tank Commander makes me want to buy one of those bad boys so bad. I just love that card back, and I wish I had been as smart as Blacked Out Ewok's fellow YouTuber. He picked up a graded UKG 91 for less than $100 or something crazy. I mean, it was really cheap, and he was really really smart to do that. Keith Guppy says, bit of a repeat question, AFA, CAS, or UKG? Well, you know, I think it depends on the item, quite honestly, as to who I'd use for grading. Me personally, I'm going to use AFA or CAS because I'm in the US. I think if I'm in the UK, UKG is just the way to go. I mean, their turnaround times, while long, I think the recent stuff I've read is that they're about 6 months right now for non-expedited type figures. Or if you're a member, you do get kind of expedited, which I think should be the case. I think if you are a paying member annually, where you pay like an annual fee, you should get preferential treatment, in my opinion. Maybe that's just me being bitter because I didn't get that when I had a membership with either AFA or CAS when I did. I don't have them anymore. I'm so fed up with the turnaround times in general that I've submitted a lot less over the last 6 months because I'm just so worn out with it. But I think if I'm in the UK, or if I'm in Europe or whatever, I would probably just send a UKG. UKG's new cases, in my opinion, might be the best now. I mean, they might. Their accessory cases absolutely are. You can make the argument that they have the overall best case, period. Now, if I've got a custom, or if I've got personally, me in the US, if I had a bootleg, that I haven't bought any bootlegs lately, but if I bought a bootleg, I'd send it to CAS. You know, if I got some kind of cool custom, like, for example, the 30th anniversary Dark Horse comic 2-packs, where I had it displayed next to the original comic. That's a CAS all the way, because they're the only ones that'll do it, at least here in the US. UKG does do some nice custom work. I've seen a lot of that on eBay and elsewhere, but AFA, you know, they're obviously the standard bearer. Their prices in general command the highest, although I think that's kind of shrinking. That margin of error is starting to shrink. I think what's going to hurt AFA is if the recent really, really harsh grading that not only I saw in my last submission, but dozens, I'm talking dozens of high-end collectors have reached out to me privately on Facebook. And I'm talking guys that submit batches of 300 to 600 vintage Kenner mocks. I mean, that they're doing batches of those. Okay, that's not a single order for them. They're just constantly sending stuff in to grade because that's their business, right? They get grade and they sell and all that kind of stuff. But everyone I've talked to has said that AFA has become extremely strict on their grading, much harsher than in the past. And I would argue that they probably swung too far. I've heard a lot of complaints from people saying, hey, are they trying to kind of keep the strict population of high grade items down? I don't know. I don't want to accuse them of anything. I think that AFA's got a great brand name and they've always treated me right. I've never had other than some labeling kind of complaints, I've never had a major problem with any of the graders. But I think that the big thing for me is going to be what happens over the next, let's call it 1 to 3 years, and I think they will, if CGC moves in to package toy grading. If they do that, I think AFA and CAS need to step their game up. AFA already seems to be stepping their game up pretty heavily. They were just acquired by Diamond Partners. That's a big, deep-pocketed, multi-million-dollar mini subsidiary type company, and it seems like their turnaround times are also down. My latest submission to AFA was sent beginning of July, and the paid invoice usually has like a completion date on there, and it was mid-September. Now, if they hold to that, which they did for my last batch, they held to the time frame thereabouts, plus or minus a week. If they really do cut their time frame down from 5 to 5.5 months to 2.5 months, that's a game changer in my opinion in terms of the types of submission flow they're going to see. They'll probably see a pretty big flow. Now, all of that is still caveated on the idea, though, that AFA, if I continue to send stuff in and I get 80 pluses on brand new vintage stuff where I don't see anything wrong with it, major, that's not an 80 plus in my opinion. I've got some vintage Kenner 80 pluses with massive spider veins on it, or all kinds of significant damage that are 80 pluses. And I find it hard to believe that my Ahsoka that is brand spanking new that has maybe 1 or 2 little nicks is also the same 80 plus. Whether it's modern or vintage, they should be on the same scale, right? An 80 plus is an 80 plus. So that could really hurt them. John Imler says, how do you feel about TVC? I've been hesitant to dive into that market. Well, let me save you a lot of money here, John. Don't do it. Don't do it. No, I think that the mistake that I made with the vintage collection is I try to get it all. I try to go from 0 to 150 miles an hour in like 6 months. And it was right during lockdowns. And I was trying to keep my budget somewhat tight because I'm in real estate and nobody was looking at real estate because we were all in lockdown. So I was a little bit worried about what my income was going to look like back then. And then, of course, the rest is history, right? We come out of lockdowns and the real estate market goes completely gangbusters. So, but to your question, I think that the mistake I made was trying to get it all. And I wouldn't do that. There are some absolutely amazing vintage collections, especially when you have them graded. They look amazing. They look amazing. And, I've sold off some of the less, whatever, the less desirable, I guess is the word that I have for some of my vintage collection. And the reason for it is just because of space. I'd love to keep all of it. I just can't keep it all. So I've maybe sold off some of the, Rise of Skywalker figures or some of these other figures that I can't collect it all. And so I just keep some of the ones that are real gems for me, like the VC 102 Ahsoka original issue, some of the ones you see behind me, the new ones I pick up, as I've mentioned, I pick up, like the new Art Trooper, Gaming Greats Art Troopers, things like that. I absolutely love those figures. I love them. And, so you got to pick and choose. Don't try to get them all would be my one piece of advice. Prune Productions, which is Chris W., who was on my live stream, he says, comics is sleepy time. Chris is so bitter. He's so bitter because, I started getting into comics. And he said, well, I'm going to get into comics. And then he buys 30 of them. And then he's like, why did I buy these? This is stupid. I hate comics. So he's just being, a hater. Don't be a hater. Don't be a 9-point hater. See what I did there? Jester, let's see. Do you think Antoc Merrick will be issued on his own card or ever come bundled with his X-Wing? Well, I mean, he was already kind of issued on his own card and with an X-wing, so I'm not sure what you mean there. But I don't think that I would be surprised if Hasbro reissues Antoc Merrick. Was it VC 204? I'd be surprised if they reissue it again. Just without the X-wing. But we'll see. We'll see. You getting the 1 in 50 Mando #2? I'm not sure, David. Probably. It's the first full appearance of Grogu. I think actually, in my opinion, Mandalorian issue 2 will have the better long-term investment prospects. If you're looking at it from an investment perspective, I think Mandalorian #2 is going to be worth more down the line, if I had to guess. Just because the print run is probably, I bet the print run for Mandalorian #2 will be half or less of Mandalorian #1. So the 1 in 50 for that one, I think, is almost a must buy, and it's a better cover too. That cover for Mandalorian #2 is unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. I know I'm way behind on comments, guys. I'm sorry. Another question. As you know, I'm searching for a good Vader #3 at a 9.8. And when he's talking about Darth Vader #3, Danny, of course, is referring to the best speculative comic book, modern-wise, pickup that I would recommend you all get. And that's Dr. Aphra, Dr. Chelly Aphra, and her 2 droids, BT-1 and 000. That's their first appearance. It's Vader #3 in a 9.8. I've lost 4 actions by $2.50 each. Is that a bit thing? I'm not sure what you mean by bit thing, but sorry for the weird question. Just frustrated. Don't get frustrated, Danny. If you like for this book and for any of these modern books, go to cgccomics.com. Go under the resources tab, and you'll see the census. You can pull up the census for any of these books and see how many of them are in a 9.8. Darth Vader cover A, Darth Vader #3 in a cover A, just the standard cover. There are like 1,000 of them. They're going to be for sale all of the time, and I think that that's what holds the price back a little bit. Is the fact that there's so many of them out there. But I'll say this: I firmly believe that Disney and Lucasfilm, they have to bring her to live action content. She is easily, in my opinion, I know this is going to be controversial for some of you that don't like her. She is easily the best modern Star Wars character that has been invented in the last, I don't know how long. Maybe, since Ahsoka, I'll say that. How about that? Since like Ahsoka and Cad Bane, I'm going to say that Dr. Aphra is easily the best character. She is awesome. And if they do half the justice to her live action that they do in the comics, she's funny. She's weird and kind of quirky. She gets into trouble. She works in the gray area. She's not exactly like a goody two shoes. She reminds me a lot of Han Solo and Indiana Jones, but I just think that the potential for episodic content with Dr. Aphra is perfect. She's an archaeologist trying to find old Sith relics. Give me a break. That's a perfect episodic kind of thing. I mean, you could really do pretty much anything with her just following the first 2 or 3 volumes of her comics. So I wouldn't worry about it, Danny. Just keep looking. Check other resources other than eBay. Check My Comics, and I think you're in the U.S., Danny. MyComicShop.com. They have her at auction all the time, or for sale, just straight for sale. You can get it, and you don't have to pay eBay taxes and eBay fees, and you can get a better deal on them. So I try to avoid eBay when I can. It doesn't always happen, as you can see behind me, but you can find better deals out there, like Comic Link or MyComicShop.com. Regardless of vintage, Power of the Force vintage collection or any other series, favorite character or figure of all time? This is an extremely difficult question. I think that my favorite character, if we're not talking about price, we're not talking about anything, we're just talking about the timeless aspect of the character, it has to be the Luke Farm Boy for me. I've got a bunch of them, as you can see behind me. I'm not buying any more just because they've gotten so expensive. I mean, it's just crazy. And I don't know if I'll ever own a mint on card just because I'm too cheap. Chris W knows I'm too cheap to do a mint on card for that figure just because it's gotten so insanely expensive. Rocket City says, Gary and I were trying to work on bringing Tim to ICCC next year. Don't know where we stand right now. Well, unfortunately, it falls during. I don't know why those guys. I don't know why those guys decided to move it, but they moved it to Memorial Day weekend, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be in town, quite honestly. So I hope I am, but I don't know. They also moved the venue to the fairgrounds, which is kind of near the Berry Hill area, and it's going to be kind of outside, which I question the intelligence of doing that. But what do I know? I mean, I'm probably not going to attend ICC. It's, the convention's not my thing, but I would like to do live or hotel lobby sales. But if it's being held outside, where's the hotel lobby sales going to be? So I don't know. I don't know if I really think that was a great decision, but I'm not a decision maker there, and I don't care to be. But let's see here. Sniping Tools. Yeah. So let's talk about Sniping Tools for a minute. In the US, there's an app for your phone called My iBidder Auction Sniper, I think is what it's called. My iBidder, all one word, Auction Sniper. And you do have to pay for it now. It used to be free. And you pay like $20 and you get like whatever it is, 25 snipes. And you can set it up for 3 seconds left and put your max bid in, and it'll automatically bid for you. So you don't have to be there right at the last second when an auction ends, especially if it ends like midnight. I go to bed at like 8:30 at night, all right, if I can. So I'm not staying up till midnight for an auction that's ending. So what I use is my iBidder Auction Sniper, put in my max bid. It automatically bids for you. You change the time frame of when you want it to bid to 3 seconds. I don't use 5 or 7 seconds. I use 3 seconds. It still leaves a little bit of time, though. It still leaves a little bit of time for someone who's actually at the computer to outbid you if they wanted to. But the way I look at it is, if I put my max bid in and I still lose on my iBidder, then that means that I didn't overpay for it. That's the way I look at it. So, but yeah, to that point that Gary raised, thank you, Gary, for raising that point. But you need to get that software. I don't know if it works outside of the U.S., but here in the U.S., my iBidder is a lifesaver. I use that all the time. Let's see what else we got. Let's see. Jester says, again, I only pick up the original series. Hate the prequels, sequels, no value in any figures for those. He's talking about TBC. Yeah, I mean, I don't even pick up like the recent Stormtrooper or the Yoda or the Bespin Guards. I didn't really pick those up. I figured, if I want them, I'll get the vintage original. But I've got to cut it off somewhere. And for me, getting the clones and Ahsoka, stuff that wasn't available in the vintage Kenner line, is much more attractive to me from a collectability standpoint. But that's why we all collect differently, right? That's the great thing about this. So let's see what else we got here. What is 1 in 3,000 in comics? I bought 2 Mandalorian comics, 1 in 3,000 ratio comics, but I don't know how that works. And they are to be graded. Well, I've never heard of a 1 in 3,000 unless it's the SCCC exclusive. I don't know if that's what you got, but those were very, very exclusive. They only made, I think, 700 copies or something, 600 copies of the SDCC version of Mandalorian #1. When they say 1 in 30, 1 in 25, this is the 1 in 50 behind me. As I talked about at the beginning, for every 50 of the cover A, only 1 of these was made. So that's when you say it's a 1 in 50 ratio. And when local comic shops ordered these, in order to get the 1 in 50 cover, they had to order 50 copies of the cover A. It just incentivizes local comic shops to buy big, buy in bulk, and they get these as freebies, as to my understanding. If they ordered 50 of the cover A Mandalorian #1, they would get that thrown in. So, like Todd McFarlane did it for the new Spawn series, where he's, it was a 1 in 250 signed, hand signed, or something like that, and only you had to order 250 or something like that in order to get 1. So it just incentivized all of these local comic shops to buy the cover A's in big bulk. And that's why I think, going back to my point about Mandalorian #1 versus #2, I think Mandalorian #2 is not going to be nearly as heavily printed as Mandalorian #1. I give it like another month or two, folks, especially with CGC's turnaround times being cut down to 35 days. It's going to be less than a month. We're going to see dozens and dozens of 9.8s for the Mandalorian #1 across all the different covers. They're already trickling out, as you can tell. I bought one. But I think that you'll see the price plummet precipitously because there's just going to be so many of them out there. It's a supply-demand thing. Now, I'll say this, too. I think there's going to be that narrow window there where the prices are just going to be flatlined because there's just so much out there. But guess what happens when the Mandalorian Season 3 hits? These casual collectors, these casual 45-year-olds that are not hardcore Star Wars nerds like me, who maybe have a couple of kids that love the Mandalorian show, they might want to get one of these. And I think you'll see an uptick in price then. But Whether it's enough to meet the price demand, or excuse me, the supply side, I don't know. I don't know whether prices will keep up with how much supply there's going to be for Mandalorian #1. But let's see what David says. He says, Zavi in the UK re-released a load of HasLab Razor Crest on Friday for the original price. Wow, awesome. And he got one. That is a good get to get it at the original price, because you can turn, if you wanted to, you could turn it right around. I'm still waiting for some crazy SOB to get the Razor Crest, send it in to Collector Archive Services, and have that loose graded. Somebody needs to do that with deep pockets. It would probably cost you $1,000 to get it loose graded, but how awesome would it be to have all the accessories and everything kind of displayed, properly? I'm wishing somebody would do that, but that somebody is not going to be me. I'm not crazy. Cobra Kai 84 join the party. Thank you. Good morning, John and folks. It's afternoon here, but I don't know where you are, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. Which states are you located into? I don't know if you're talking to me, but I'm in Tennessee. I live in Tennessee, lovely Tennessee. I've been here for a long time now. I've been here for, wow, I'm dating myself. I've been here for 23 years now. 23 years. I grew up in Virginia, and I went to school in Virginia. And then I came here, as I've mentioned on the channel, to do investment banking work. I did like finance and, working crazy hours. 110-hour weeks. It was crazy. Pretty terrible lifestyle. So I got out of that. Now I do real estate. So Danny is in Arizona. Hyperactive rodent is what Chris said. Thank you, Chris, for the kind words. Your comment is duly noted. And I'd love to say that is incorrect, but it is true. It is true. I know I'm probably way behind on comments here, so I'm trying to scroll through some of these. That's why we love your channel, John. I could watch that stuff all day. He's talking again about the man. There must be a ton of comments that I've missed here. But before I forget, I want to say this much to you guys. For you guys who are Patreon supporters, I want to say thanks. And if you like this kind of thing, where we just chat and kind of off the cuff, I know I'm not getting through nearly 5% of the comments by now. But if you guys like this kind of thing, we can make it a regular thing. Okay, I want to make sure to get that out there while we got 12 people watching. But I'll say this. I basically stopped watching all sports because I don't have time anymore. The only sport that I really love and I watch like all day long is football. Football is getting ready to start back up in a couple of weeks, college and pro. So Sunday at 3 p.m. is going to be really tough for me to do it. So we're gonna have to huddle up. We're gonna have to do a survey of some sort on the Patreon page as to when you guys would like to do these live stream exclusives. Okay, because it's going to be hard to do it on Sunday because I live and breathe football. It's really, really hard. Let's see. Yeah, Chris also says he loves the loose graded UKG cases. I love those. Laser cut cases are awesome. All right, let's see what Brett has to say. John, I know you've been down lately on Big Bad Toy Store collector grade conditions. So have you found another retailer for mint condition figures? No. Answer is no. It's all a crapshoot. I tried Entertainment Earth one time, and it was so bad that I would never, ever give them my money again. I've tried Dorkside Toys, and I had good success there for a little while, but I don't pre-order from them because their pre-orders take forever. Big Bad Toy Store has gotten a little bit better on that front. I don't know if I just had a bad batch. I don't know. It could have been bad. I think it's a combination of two things. It was a bad batch from Big Bad Toy Store, and it was harsh grading from AFA. Now, I've got 15 that should be back next month from AFA that were all Big Bad Toy Store collector grade. And they were the Gaming Greats, exclusives, the online exclusives, Gaming Greats, Art Troopers. So my gut says that the grades on those will be better. Because if you look at the grades I got for the items that I just got back from Collector Archive Services, those were online exclusives as well. Those were Gaming Greats exclusives. And in general, the packaging on those were delivered to those retailers in really good shape. And I think that's because they were online exclusives. They were, Dorkside, Entertainment Earth, and Big Bad Toy Store exclusives. So Hasbro realizes, hey, we got to deliver these things in good quality because they're our channel partners for distribution. And versus just a regular run-of-the-mill, whatever, Lobot, that goes everywhere, maybe not as much care was taken with a lot of those, and maybe Big Bad Toy Store didn't quite do as thorough of a job on selecting out the collector grade. That's my theory. I have absolutely nothing to base that on, but that's the theory I'm running with. But I think that my theory will be known, whether I'm right or not, next month if AFA's batch comes back, because like I said, a lot of those were, I think all of them actually were, maybe not all of them. I think I had a couple of Fennec Shans in there. But the vast majority of them were exclusive, online exclusives for that gaming greats wave. So this is a great comment by Danny Allen that I wanted to share. I've taken a lot of notice of people unloading mass collections. This was the trend, with COVID collectors, TVC 2.0. Interesting to see if we see drops in the toy lines. Now, maybe it's just because of that one seller on eBay that, I covered at length, where he had probably 10 or 15 different lot sales. But I have noticed on Facebook too, in like the TVC group, the Facebook Vintage Collection group, that there's been a lot more of people commenting saying, I'm getting out of the TVC. I can't take it anymore. We've certainly seen it in the Black Series, right? Black Series we know is struggling. But with Vintage Collection, it does seem like there's more collectors that maybe are selling off in mass. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence or what, but we will see. We will see. Let's see what Chris has to say. What's the next big ticket item for vintage Kenner that I want? This is a very, very tough question from Chris. Thank you, Chris, for the question. Instead of being a jerk for once, you actually submitted a very thought-provoking question. I don't know what my next big ticket item is going to be. I'm saving right now. I've kind of had a bender here lately with some vintage Kenner stuff and mint on cards. So I don't think I'm going to be getting anything anytime soon. I hope. But I'm curious. I think what I'm probably going to do, if I'm being honest with you, I'm probably going to wait until the preview listing comes out for Hakes for the November auction. They've already announced that they're doing a November auction. And I'm going to wait to see what that preview catalog looks like to see if there's anything worthwhile in there. That's probably what I'm going to do. So that's a long way away, November, but they'll probably have the preview catalog by October. So that gives me a couple months, two and a half months-ish to kind of, get some money pulled together. So we'll see. I think if it were me, if I had my druthers, what I'd like to get a revenge proof for Bosk. I'd like to get a revenge proof for maybe one other character. I'd like to get the Death Star droid, but it's so expensive. I think one sold on Facebook for close to almost $3,000. I'm not paying $3,000 for a piece of cardboard. I'm sorry. It was bad enough getting my AFA 80 plus cloud car pilot, and I didn't spend nearly that kind of money, believe me. But some of those key characters I'd love to get, but Bosk would be the big one. I think I'd like to pick up that. But in terms of a mint on card, I'd like to get another R5. If I really had my druthers, it would be a Return of the Jedi, clear blister, high grade R5D4. That's what I'd really like to get. It's just so hard to find, though. There's one that was listed on eBay maybe 2-3 months ago that I missed out on. I didn't have any money. It was like an AFA 75 transition card, 48 bag Neon offer, and I should have bought it. I should have bought it because it went for pretty cheap. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna scroll back through here a little bit. Let's see. Cobra Kai, he says, interested in your thoughts on the retro collection line, John, especially with Bosk and Vac Metal droids on the way. Am I picking these up? This is a really tough one. I think that I like the retro collection. I like seeing what they're doing with it. I like the effort that they're putting into it. I think it's a good way for collectors that can't afford a nice near mint vintage Kenner C3PO or R2D2 to get something that feels like it. I had some retro collection figures. I sold them all. I think I've got 1 or 2 left that are graded. I've got the Tarkin, and I've got the Remnant Stormtrooper that was the Monopoly store pack-in. That's the only 2 I've got. I like the way they look. I'm not trying to say that I don't like them. I love them, but I had to cut it off somewhere. I'm just exhausted with collecting. Prune Production says he's got his tickets and everything booked already. I'm staying at John's house. I may not be here, but that's probably not going to stop you from staying here anyway. Gary got his VIP tickets. Man, you want to talk about a guy that can put down some beers? This guy right here, Gary, man, it was terrifying. You reminded me a lot of me. Okay, you need more coffee in your life, more coffee and less alcohol. Okay, Gary. But no, I'm only joking with you. But man, that was pretty impressive. You can put them down. I know that if I have some of you guys over pre-party at my house before ICCCC, I'm gonna have to buy a lot of beer. I can't go buy beer. All right, I'm sober now. All right, I have an appearance to keep up within a certain community that will remain nameless. And if certain other members of that community watch me walk into a Kroger and pick up 37 12 packs of beer to keep up with Gary, it wouldn't go over well. So I'm going to have to give my wife like $200 and say, just go buy beer for these guys and have a big trash can with a trash bag in there because it's going to be full within about an hour and a half. Sniping Tools, that's the way to go. Man, I am just way behind on comments. I'm so sorry here. Trade edition of 3000 is what I ended up buying in Mando #1. I don't know what you're talking about, man. I can't keep up with all the modern comics. There's too many of them. I used to try to keep up with them. Now, let me say this on modern comics. I've got one good comic pick for modern releases that's coming out that you need to buy. Okay. And that's Yoda #1. That's coming out, I think, November 23rd. Yoda #1. Check it out. It's going to be the first solo comic book series for Yoda, and it's going to be the origin story for Yoda. And you have got to see some of the exclusive covers. I'm sure I'll make a video about it at some point. I'll probably tie it into the CGC toy video just because we're talking CGC. But man, you got to check out the covers for that Yoda #1 that is coming out in November. I think it's November 23rd. I'm going to buy so many of those. There's one that's like a close-up of him with like a snake, and the snake is kind of like hissing and kind of like, coiled up. And it's a close-up of Yoda getting ready to kind of force push somebody. Man, you want to talk about an awesome cover. And it's a key issue, right? We've never really heard the origin story for Yoda. And it's also his first solo comic book series. And, I've talked about this a lot, where if you can't afford the first comic book appearance like of Dr. Aphra that goes for $300, get her first solo series, which goes for $175 in a 9.8. And the same thing for Yoda, right? The first appearance of Yoda was in Star Wars #42, which is also Boba Fett's first appearance, unfortunately. So you're going to be dropping, $1,500 to $2,000 in a 9.8. Star Wars #41 is his first cameo. That goes for about $400 in a 9.8. But if you don't want to spend that kind of money, this is kind of the next best thing, man. You get his origin story, and you get his first solo comic series. So check out Yoda #1. I'll shut up about comics now. I know some of you guys don't care about comics. Saturday would be my vote, says Dennis, because he's a huge football fan. Well, the problem is we got college football on Saturdays, but we'll do a poll. We'll do a poll, and we'll do simple majority wins. We'll figure out some times. I'd love for it to be Friday night, but I got Friday night commitments on Friday night, so I'm gonna have to give up something. And if I had to guess, it's probably gonna be Saturday. We'll probably do it Saturday afternoon. Saturday mornings, I've got karate, I've got volleyball, I've got so much family stuff, so it can't be Saturday mornings. But it seems like Saturday, late afternoon. Some of you guys in the UK will be drunk, but that's okay. I welcome drunk Patreon supporters for the live stream. That's okay. Saturday works for me. Maybe to get a couple of Patreons on the stream too. What did you always want? I think this is a good idea from Gary here. I want to do this for you guys because, keep in mind that this is going to be live on replay. This is going to be on the channel proper for subscribers to see on replay, because I want them to see that we're having a good time on this stuff, right? But I do think this is a good idea, is that maybe we could pick a different, Patreon supporter, and he could talk about his collection. It's kind of like a collector spotlight type thing. I'd like to get to know you first. I don't want some crazy like conspiracy theorist weirdo on here, but I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be really fun though to get you guys on here. And Gary, I think you'd be great. I know Keith would be great. Good Lord, he's got an amazing collection. All right, let's see what else we got. Yeah, Gary needs a keg. That's right. I need to get a pony keg for you guys if you guys come over before you go to your toy convention. I'm not going to the convention, okay? I can tell you that right now. I got phobias for having a lot of people. I don't want to be patient zero in my household for COVID, all right? I don't want to be patient zero. So I probably won't go to the convention, but I think it would be fun to do kind of a pre-party or something like that. But we will need a pony keg, I think, to keep up with Gary. Let's see what he got here. Tim does come. You better lock your boss collection up. Yeah, that's a good point. He probably would. he probably would like a swipe at some of those like Oratets and things like that. Let's see what else we got here, guys. Saturdays would be great. Tennessee is a terrible college team to follow. Well, I follow the University of Virginia, Rocket City Sith, and I can promise you that as bad as Tennessee may be, they're nowhere nearly as bad as Virginia. So keep that in mind. I just basically would like to watch good football, and for college football, I don't really have a team anymore. I just kind of watch whatever. All right, David, he says, have you seen an increase in Patreon members since you started releasing this, buy that videos early for members? I'm loving these early releases. Well, I got to be honest with you that the idea to start releasing my videos a day early was because of that what to buy video, the buy this or buy that videos, because I wanted to figure out a way to quote unquote reward the Patreon team because you guys fund the channel expenses. And if I'm doing the research and finding a bunch of cool stuff for sale, I want you guys to have first dibs at it. And I know that a lot of you guys do love those videos and enjoy, looking at what I like and what I think's a good buy and things like that. And I try to mix it up. I do some vintage collection. I do some vintage Kenner. I do some CGC 9.8s. But yeah, I have seen maybe a little bit of an uptick. I had a big uptick this week. I had 7 new Patreons, and shout out to those of you who are on here, like Jester's Dead, John Imler, Sean I can't even remember all the names now. Gosh, we had Jamie Irving, just a number of different guys. We had 7 different new Patreon supporters this week, and I don't know if it's because of the Patreon exclusive live stream or if it's because they just wanted to support the channel. I don't know, but I have seen an uptick as a result of that as well. So thank you guys so much. It's awesome, man. And yes, I'll continue to release every video if I remember. Now, I want to say this. I may not remember, or I may get tied up with work, so I may not release a video early, 24 hours early for you guys, but it's only because I forgot. But I promise you that for the what to buy videos, I absolutely will. I'll make sure that those always go up for you guys, because that was the main impetus to start doing that, because I wanted you guys to have first dibs at those, right? I remember when I became a Patreon and AFG only had 4. Yeah, and you and Keith Guppy and Chris, you guys were some of the early ones, and it just means the world to me that you guys do that, and I really appreciate it. It's awesome, man. All right, let's see. Brett on Fet says, sorry, I had to leave. I have another commitment. Have a great stream. Have fun. Thank you again, Brett, for joining. And make sure you guys check out Brett on Fet on YouTube. He's got a great channel. Another quick plug I want to make, and if you guys have any other plugs, let me know. But another quick plug I absolutely have to make is Chris W. Chris W. runs Rogue 5 Toys. He's also at 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Chris has been a very early Patreon. I don't know who was first. It was either Keith Guppy or Chris W. were the first Patreon supporters. So they've been there for a long time, and he's been a long time supporter of my channel. He unfortunately rewarded me by making me an admin in his group. So now I get into controversies when I don't even want to be in a controversy. At everyone, by the way. But anyway, make sure you guys go check out 5 Idiots Talking Toys, and make sure that you check out Rogue 5 Toys on Facebook. And I think I include a link to Rogue 5 Toys on just about every video in the video description. That's where I spend most of my money now, folks. I mean, there's a lot of good deals on there. Down with Prony. Yeah, I mean, make sure to check out that Yoda 1. There's another one that's coming out this fall. Maybe it's the New High Republic Volume 2. I mean, there's a one shot also with the about Porter Engle, I believe, the Blade of Bordiga. There's a one shot with him coming out. That's going to be a big book, I think. But if I had to pick one for this fall, I would pick Yoda number 1. There's no doubt. That book is going to be high. There's also going to be a 1 in 25 or 1 in 50 ratio virgin variant. That's the Ken Lashley. The Ken Lashley cover is the one I'm thinking of, I think. That cover is absolute fire. It is unbelievable. It's one of my favorites. I'm definitely getting that one in a 9.8. There's no question in my mind. It's just an awesome cover. Store choice to buy comics. Well, Jester's Dead. I buy all of my raw comics on ANZ Comics. He is an eBay seller, but I don't know if he ships internationally, unfortunately. I know that Boss Bounty buys a lot of his at, is it Entertainment? Is it not Entertainment Earth? The Entertainer. He buys a lot of his raw comics there, and he gets really nice mint ones. He just sent me a few to get pressed and clean for him. He gave me one of them, so I was like, "Well, yeah, I'm going to press your comics if you're giving me." He gave me a Black Panther #2, is it? Which is the first appearance of Ocean, who's like another big, really big character. He gave me a second printing for free, and he sent one for me to press for him. So those are at the presser right now. But Jester, to answer your question, I think it's the Entertainer is where he gets his comics, and they always come really clean. The ones he sent me were very clean. They were 9.8 candidates for sure. So that's where I would buy it. But if you're in the U.S., ANZ Comics, make sure you put in the notes two things. Number one, that you know me, that John Rula sent me, or Action Figure Grader sent me, and number two, always if you're looking for raw comics that are 9.8 quality, make sure to put the notes. I'm looking for clean copies for CGC. That's what I always say to him. And he's told me before that, hey, your order's delayed because I'm waiting on another fresh batch because all the ones I got were not 9.8 candidates. And I would say that my last batch that I ordered from him were Mandalorian #1s. Of like the 30 I ordered from him, 26 of them are 9.8 candidates. 4 of them were definitely not 9.8s, but 26 out of 30, that's pretty good. That's pretty good numbers right there. I'm not saying they're all going to hit 9.8 because you never know, but they were good enough that I sent them in to get pressed. So 26 out of 30, that's batting pretty good if you're a baseball player. Bye again to Brett. And all right, let's see what he says. I know you like variants in the Kenner and other manufacturing companies. We got, wow, you got so many different ones. I really like the PBP and the POC and the Lily Lettys, especially in Mexico. I believe I'm going to try and get good versions of each figure graded just to have a great collection of Kenner Star Wars. There is absolutely nothing. We all collect differently, man. We all collect differently. The variant grading, the graded variant rabbit hole, Chris W. will attest to this. It is a never-ending rabbit hole. It never ends. For every Vader that I have, I've got a bunch of them. Chris has 3 more that I don't have. So it never ends. So that's the danger of variants, is that you can really go down the rabbit hole. And I've kind of like stepped back. I was like, okay, I have enough variants. I don't need I don't need 10 of every variant. I'm looking right now as I talk. I'm looking at my Greedos. I've got 3 graded Mexican bootlegs, and I've got 6 loose graded Greedos. That's not normal. Okay, you don't need that many Greedos. All right, there's something wrong with me. So I've taken a little bit of a step back, and now I just pick out 1 or 2 here and there. I might pick out a baggie, that kind of thing. But we all collect differently. But I know a lot of people that don't want to touch variants because of what you just said. That it becomes a rabbit hole that never ends. I do make 9 videos a week. No, I don't. I make 7. I try to make 7. Sometimes I make more than 7, but I schedule them for early release. And I'll also say this, is that I've already pre-made videos for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So for those of you who are new Patreons, Joey G just joined up today. I'm not sure if he's on today or not, but Joey G just joined my Patreon page, maybe an hour ago. So I don't even know if he saw this. I made sure to send him a private message thanking him, but some of you recent Patreon members, you may not see your name on the graphic for the first 3 or 4 videos for this week, but I promise you it's coming. I just filmed one coming up this week on the Power of the Force line, where I did do a shout out to Jester's Dead and John Imler and a few of you other guys that recently joined. Okay. I wanted to ask, I know you have a vinyl Cape Jawa. I do. I actually have it. You probably can't see it because of my stupid name up there, but yeah, I do have a vinyl Cape Jawa. Loose graded, but do I have a mock? No, I do not have a mock vinyl Cape Jawa. I'm crazy, Gary, but I'm not that crazy. Okay, I'm not dropping 15 or 20 grand on a mint on card vinyl Cape Jawa. That's not in the cards for me. Number one, I'd be terrified that it would fall off. I've seen some of those early vintage figures. I've seen them fall off the card. That glue, or however it goes on there, the waffle pattern. It degrades over time. And so that's the danger that we play in when we start buying some of those really expensive vintage Kenner items. Now, do I think the risk of that happening is high? No, I think it's a pretty low likelihood scenario, but I've seen some friends and collectors where some of those early mocks have fallen off the card, and that would be terrifying for a vinyl Cape Jawa, especially. Here we go. David Grinstaff. Now, I thought, yeah, David's in the UK. I'm sorry. David says, Crunch Comics in reading. They post them to me. So that's a recommendation, Jester. And David is he's a CGC submitter, so he gets really high quality stuff. He's got a great comic book collection. And let me know, David, how your how your recent submissions go. I'd love to take a look at them. And what we should do is a Patreon, just for Chris, a Patreon exclusive only, where you show off some of your graded CGC comics and talk about your comic collection. I know that Prune Productions would tune in for that one. Aren't you running out of room by now to store stuff, especially with comics, since you bought 8730? Now, I bought a bunch of them. I do have a lot of graded comics now. I got close to 300 CGC 9.8s, which is a lot, but I have sold off a lot of them too. I sold off probably close to 80 between Rogue 5 and MySlabs and eBay. And so I have sold off a number of them. I've also sold off a lot of graded vintage collection, as you guys have seen here recently, just to kind of fund other operations. And I'll say this, is that I've got a bunch coming over the next, let's say, month or so. I've got doubles and triples and quadruples for a number of different vintage collection. And I have you're asking me, why did you do that, John? I have no idea. Okay. I'm not making any money on them. By the time I ship it there and ship it back and then ship it to the new buyer, I'm not making any money on them. I really am not. But I just like grading stuff. It's like it's in my blood to get stuff graded. So, when I send off 5 of the Art Trooper, Lambent Seeker, I want to see how they come back, especially when you send 5 at the same time. How does AFA just go, 80 plus for all of them? Now we'll give you an 85 on one, and you get 4 80 pluses. You're welcome, John. You're welcome. I can just picture the grader doing that. It's not even looking at them. I'll give them 4 80 pluses and 185. That's good enough. Let's go get some sushi for lunch. That's what I can see them doing. Anyway, I'm a bad influence. I hope you're not talking about me. I am not a bad influence. I'm a good influence. I always preach patience. I preach patience on Mandalorian #1. And as you can see, I didn't even listen to my own advice. I preach patience on graded figures. Don't overpay. As much as we all want to click on that buy it now, wait for an auction. There are millions of these figures out there for the most part, unless you're talking about some really rare stuff. But yeah, if there's one person that is a bad influence on my buying, it's definitely Prune. Prune Productions will send me a PM and says, I need to buy something so bad. Oh, and then I'm like, yeah, I need to buy something too. And then I don't buy anything. I've got a trick for you guys who are still watching. Why anyone's still watching at 1 hour and 7 minutes, I have no idea. But I've got a really good trick for you, and this works for me. It's a suggestion. I'm not saying it's going to work for you, but this is a suggestion. When I really want to buy something, but I really don't want to spend any money, I get on eBay and I type in whatever, Star Wars Kenner Mock, Star Wars AFA, Star Wars CAS. Type in whatever you want to type in and just start scrolling through listings and start really looking at listings. And within about 20 minutes, you're so exhausted by looking at stuff that me personally, I just give up. I'm like, I'm so tired. It's too exhausting. I'm not going to buy anything. Why am I looking at, so I get that crave, we get that craving, some people say if you get a craving for booze, just eat some chocolate and it goes away. Well, if I get a craving for a vintage comic or a slabbed comic or a vintage, figure, I just shop on eBay until my eyes are so exhausted that I don't end up buying anything. I'm telling you, it may work for you. It works for me. Really, it really does work. What else we got here? 9 videos a week. It's always something new. Well, I mean, look, not all my videos resonate. Okay. I showed you guys, not you guys, but I showed the collecting community some really rare bootlegs, really rare ones, but no one cares. And then I show you the prices for vintage collection and I got triple the views in less than 24 hours on that video than on my graded bootleg collection, where sometimes I'm showing you stuff that's like 1 of 3 in the world that exists. So I can't predict it. I give up trying to predict it. If you guys want price guides, that's what I'll give you. I'll give you price guides. That's what for my channel, in a way, that's what seems to resonate, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. It's, as long as something resonates. Not everything is going to resonate. Not every video is going to resonate with you guys, and I get that. My economics videos, they bore the crap out of most of you guys, and that's okay. But it gets it off my chest. I get the stress and the worry of the a recession coming and of the economy and the real estate market collapsing around me and I'm not going to have any money. I get it all off my chest by dumping it all onto you. I vomit it all up on you guys, the collective meta you as a collecting community. And not all of you guys like those videos, and I understand that. It's all right. And it looks like you're sitting at 4.22K subs on YouTube, which is amazing to me. I'm glad you brought that up, Gary. When I first started this channel, I was just getting sober. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my free time. And I got tired of playing video games all the time. It was kind of like a not a very productive thing. And so I started the YouTube channel and look, I'm not the biggest channel out there. I know that. But the fact that you guys watch my stuff and the fact that we've got over 4,000 subscribers, and quite honestly, it's because of you guys, the Patreon. You guys help support the channel. You guys drive me to create content. The way I look at it is when I see those, you Patreon supporters each month supporting the channel, I don't feel good inside if I don't create a video. All right. So I'm not saying I create a video every day, but I try to come close to that because I think I have an obligation to you guys to create content because you guys are supporting the channel. So thank you guys to all of you who have allowed me to hit over 4,000 subscribers. It's mind blowing to me that anyone watches me, much less 4,000 of you. So John, on TVC, what do you guys think the issue quantity is on TVC on 1. I think he's talking about 1.0. I would guess 60% Canada, 10% Europe, 30%. This is a good question. Now keep in mind that the European variants, at least most of them, are basically just the US cards and they just slapped on the warning stickers on the back, right? So if you combine, I don't know what the ratio is of European warning stickers on the back versus US. I don't know what that ratio is. But I've heard from bigwig collectors, people that really know what they're talking about, people that have insights into this stuff. They said that Canada to US is 1 to 10. So for every Canadian release, there's 10 US releases. I don't know what that is, US versus Europe. If I had to guess, it's probably 2 to 1, somewhere in that ballpark. So I think your numbers are probably not that far off. I don't know. I can't do the math in terms of percentages, but I would say that if I had to guess, the US probably had the most production. They took some of that US production, and for most of the European cards, they just slapped that warning sticker on. I know there's some rare variants with like Takara stickers. I know there's some European variants that are actually probably printed on multi-language. But the vast majority of the TVC 1.0 in Europe have that big warning sticker on the back, and that's just the US card back. But Canada, man, that's why I love like this shock trooper, because that Kenner Canada shock trooper, man. I mean, there can't be that many of them out there in a 90+ grade, so it's pretty awesome. Let's see what else we got. We're gonna wrap it up here soon because my voice is absolutely dying. Any other questions here, guys? Sad Lemon Comics is another recommendation for Jester's Dead. For buying comics over in the UC. Grading Fanatic. Yeah. I mean, I've slowed down a lot, as we've talked about on the channel. The turnaround times are just really rough. They're really rough. So now if AFA gets their turnaround times down to what they're advertising, and it seems like they might do that, we'll know next month if the advertised times on those invoices actually are met. But some of those items I've got coming back are like early September, mid-September. And if they truly deliver door to door 2.5 months, that's going to be hard to pass that up. So Yoda One only got 3 covers, right? The Phil Noto. I think there's also a Lashley variant. I'm not positive. I'm just going on memory here, so don't quote me on this. But there's a 1 in 25 and a 1 in 50 ratio variant. The 1 in 25 is, I believe, the trade dress Lashley, and I believe the 1 in 50 is a Virgin Lashley variant. I read that really quickly on Drunk Wookie. On Instagram. If you don't follow Drunk Wookie on Instagram, make sure, I think it's Drunk Wookie. Make sure you follow him because he covers the new release stuff really well. He tells you exactly what's coming out, what ratio it's going to be, when the release dates are. He covers store exclusives like Things from Another World or all the other kind of store exclusives. He covers all of that in great detail, and it's a must follow if you're a Star Wars comic fan. Do you have mini graded Kenner vehicles graded, John? No. The answer is no. I don't have the specs. I've got a lot of the die casts. I've got 3 or 4 die casts. I've got The land speeder, loose graded with the box. That's probably the biggest one I've got. That thing's gigantic. Off the top of my head, that's all I can think of off the top of my head for vintage Kenner stuff. I don't really have many vehicles. I might pick up a mini rig or something, but I just don't have the space, unfortunately. I've thought about it a few times. I've even bid a few times. I've bid on Vader's TIE Fighter, the collector series. I've bid on that a few times. Oh, I do have the dewback. I've got a mint and seal dewback, the collector series for that. Off the top of my head, that's all I got, though. I might pick up a mini rig or something, man. Okay, guys, my voice is absolutely hoarse. Head shake Boba Fett. But thank you guys for joining. I hope that I'm sorry I didn't get to all the comments, everyone, but I hope that you all enjoy it. My favorite graded TVC shock trooper, but besides the shock trooper, my favorite graded TVC, probably some of the mist cards. Those mist cards are hot. They're hot. The Mando, Lando, the Armor, Darth Vader. I mean, those graded, authenticated factory air mist cards, man. Woo, absolutely nasty. I love those, man. They've gotten so expensive. Although I did cover one in my latest TVC video that went for a couple $100. The Grief Karga Zutton. I know that's not a super desirable character combo, but that's $200 for that. It's a good deal. That's a good deal. Whoever got that one. Okay, guys, we'll do it again soon. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.